Hey guys, welcome to the Philly Special Sports Podcast. We're going to talk about all four Philly sports teams. Currently, the Sixers just got finished a exciting series between them and the Celtics. The Flyers are in the playoffs, and the Eagles just had the draft, and the Phillies are not off to the greatest start of the season. But we're going to jump right into the Sixers. Last night, they played the Celtics in a Game 7. Um, they had to come back from a 3-1 lead just because they didn't really play well in the first game that got blown out. The second game, they stole from the Celtics. And then the third game at home, a lot of people had a lot of excitement with that, but they couldn't get it done at home. Game 4, they also couldn't get it done, so they were down 3-1. Not many people, no one really gave the Sixers a shot in general in this series, but especially when they were down 3-1. I think what really changed the tide was the fact that Joel Embiid came back. He was great, he was great when he did play, but especially in games 5, 6, and 7. So in game 5, when their backs were against the wall, they were down 13 at one point in game 5 to the Celtics in Boston. No one expected them to win. I think they had less than a 10% chance to win the game, but they defied the odds. They came back. The Celtics got cold from 3. But at that point, the Sixers weren't playing like great basketball. Like they were down 13 at half. No one really gave them a shot. But the Sixers pushed through. And I think that kind of speaks to the experience that Tyrese Maxey has gone through. Embiid has gone through. I think the experience of the role players. Like Andre Drummond is an older guy, but he still has like playoff experience. Kelly Oubre, same thing. But I think the energy really shifted there because Game 6, Boston wanted to close it out. They wanted to beat Philly on their home court, show their dominance. Keep in mind, the Sixers haven't beaten the Celtics in a playoff series since 1982, which when they did beat the Celtics in that playoff series, they ended up going to the finals, but they lost to the Lakers. The next year, 1983, the Sixers won the NBA Finals. That was just a quick little history lesson. But so getting back to Game 6, they had the Celtics pretty much on the ropes the whole game. The Celtics did get out to like a first quarter lead. Tatum had a really good start to the game, but other than that, the Sixers really rolled them. I mean, they were playing out. They were playing fast. They just were more physical, and they really took it to the Celtics in Game 6. And I think that kind of set up the blueprint for Game 7. Now in Game 7, I will say like Jason Tatum, he did have left leg. There was soreness in his left leg. They didn't really specify what about it, but he ended up not playing. So that was a big factor. But from the opening tip, the Sixers really, really just put it on the Celtics. You could see they jumped out to like a 9-0 lead to start the game. And Embiid was passing the ball. He was being aggressive, going towards the hoop. He was getting fouls. The Celtics have a great coach in Joe Mazzulla, but they did put out a lineup that really wasn't like nobody expected the Celtics to put out that starting lineup. They had 3 guys who have never started in the playoffs start that game. I think it was a move because Joel Embiid was doing so good at drawing fouls from the Celtics big men. I think it was a move to kind of counter that, but Joel realized that, hey, if they're going to play small ball, my guys are better than their guards because they put out smaller guards. They put out guards who haven't really played in the playoffs. And Joel passed, he facilitated. But the thing that really stuck out to me was the fact that the Sixers came out aggressive. They came out of the gate throwing punches. They came out of the gate trying to, give it to the Celtics. Like they weren't going to play this game where they're going to let the Celtics get out to a lead and then have to come back. That's not how the Sixers are going to win games. That's not really how they're built to play. They're built as a team that can jump you. Like right when the tip-off starts, the Sixers can go out there and they can score the ball at an effective pace because they have so much. They're so different. Their roster is so different. Like Joel is a guy who can get down on the block. He can back you down. He can kick it out to the guards to shoot. But then Tyrese Maxey and VJ are guys who can push the pace. They're really fast, and they can beat the guards with speed, but they can beat them with quickness as well. And Kelly Oubre also plays really good off that because he's also a guy that can shoot the three. You can kick it out to him, or he can cut to the basket, be like a rim runner, and he also defends really well. The Celtics' best player was Jaylen Brown in Game 7. He does benefit from having a whistle that no one in the NBA really has because he can use his off arm to push off defenders, but the Sixers persevered through that. Jaylen Brown did have 33, 9, and 4. The 33 points came scattered. Like in the fourth quarter when the Celtics needed him most, he didn't show up, but he did score throughout the game to keep them in the game. I think what really set the Celtics back was the fact that they didn't have, well, A, they didn't make their shots, but B, they didn't have a guy who struck fear into the Sixers defense the way like a Jason Tatum would, or in past years like they had Porzingis, they had like other players other players that can score the ball effectively. Like this year they didn't really have anyone to score effectively, so I think that played a big role because all they had to rely on was Derek White and Peyton Pritchard, who are guys that are good role players, but I don't think they put the same fear in you as a Jason Tatum or a Porzingis, who are guys that can give you like 25, 30 consistently a night. And the Sixers weren't worried about another guy beating them. If they knew if they shut down Jaylen Brown, that they were going to have a really good shot to win the game. The Sixers had some pretty big leads at points in this game. They had a lead that was up to 18, and the Celtics fought back. I give the Celtics a lot of credit, because they didn't quit at any point in the game when they could have. But at the same time, the Sixers have like that experience of when getting their hearts ripped out, and I think that plays a huge role because like Embiid in past years probably wouldn't have been as aggressive as he should have been or as he was like last night. Tyrese Maxey, I think all the years of heartbreak and all the years of not being able to get over the hump, I think that also played a huge factor because he was playing aggressive, but he also was playing smart. Like he would drive to the hole when he had a center on him. In past years, he would have done like a step back three, and it wouldn't have been as good of a look. But in this year, like he drove to the basket, he took it. Like Neemias Queta was the center for the Celtics. The Sixers attacked him in a pick and roll setting where they would have Embiid come up. He would screen for Maxey. Queta was guarding Embiid. So then when there's a pick and roll like in basketball, usually you switch. So then the guard who was guarding Maxey would have to guard Embiid, and then Queta would have to come out and guard Maxey. Maxey sometimes, especially in the past, has dribbled around. He's gotten open looks, but he's hit like far step back threes. This time, Maxey was running at Queta downhill, which Tyrese Maxey would win that race 100 out of 100 times. So like there was no way for Queta to be able to contain Maxey or guard Maxey. So Maxey would get to the rim. He would be past the center so that Maxey can get creative at the rim, which he's so good at, and he would be able to get a nice layup and take the energy out of the building from the Boston fans. The Boston fans were alive and well. I mean, growing up in my lifetime, I've never seen the Sixers beat the Celtics in any playoff series. So this was definitely like a great thing to see. I was very excited, and it was just a great game by the Sixers. In past years, the Sixers weren't able to do that. I think also the big thing for the Sixers was the fact that they were able to have other people show up. Like Quentin Grimes, he didn't have the best offensive game, but he at least had a presence on defense where in other years like no one would show up when they had Embiid or Maxey score like probably 30 to 35. No one else would show up for the team, so then they couldn't they would have to do so much and they would have to put so much on their shoulders that they would basically not be able to perform because they had to carry the team so much. Something that also really stuck out to me in this game was the fact that VJ Edgecombe, who hasn't shot the ball the best this series, was able to just be resilient and keep shooting. Like I think that something that the all Sixers fans should realize is the fact that when Embiid's career is over, which I hope it's not anytime soon because he looked great last night. But Maxey and VJ are definitely the backcourt of the future. They have just such great chemistry where VJ can play against any veteran and he can still look like great. He had 23 last night and it was the most effective 23 points because not only was he shooting the ball 12 from 3, he made 5 threes, which was great, but he also drove at times where he saw the paint was open and he hit like a couple pull-up J's, which was fantastic because not many people thought he would be able to just keep doing what he's doing. Like throughout the regular season, he always showed up and he always was a great number 2. But this time, you have Embiid, you have Maxey, you have Paul George, and then you have VJ. Like people didn't know how much VJ was going to shine through because those vets are experienced in the playoffs, and it's not the smartest thing to just like say to a rookie, "Hey, go out there and prove everyone wrong." But they did anyway, and I think that something that everyone should be happy about is the fact that this is a different team. This isn't a team that's just going to roll over. They were down 3-1. No one gave them a shot. Everyone wrote them off. The like Vegas, I think even before 3-1, I think it was 2-1. The Celtics were minus 2,200 to win the series. So the fact that the Sixers were able to pull this off and pull it off in a fashion where they were dominant these last 2 games. So upcoming on Monday night, the Sixers will play the Knicks. The last time they played the Knicks, it wasn't a good series. Embiid did get hurt, so it wasn't great. But I do think the Sixers, like, if there's a team to beat the Knicks, I think it is the Sixers. Embiid matches up well with Cat, and I think Maxey is going to be able to get like 30 a game, which is going to be nice. And I think VJ and Paul George are going to be the X factors because the New York Knicks are a great team, and I'm not taking anything away from them, but Paul George is probably better than the third option on the Knicks, and VJ, if he's not better than, he's equal to the fourth option on the Knicks. So I think if they can step up, and if they can hit their shots, and if they can steal one of the first 2 games in New York and be able to play as well as they did in Game 6 at home when they play the Knicks, I think it's going to be they're going to have a 3-1 lead, and I think out of the games 5, 6, and 7, if they have to win one, I'm confident that they do because I think Embiid's now is playing. He's playing like a floor general. He realizes that he has other options on his team that will score the ball, so he doesn't have to do it all himself, and he can pass, he can kick. If the Knicks do double, which they do, like they tend to do, he's going to be able to kick it out, and he's going to be able to hit somebody because he trusts them to hit a shot. And I think Oubre is going to play a big factor in this series because Oubre is going to have a couple times where he's going to be left wide open for a 3. If he can hit at least like 50% to 60% of them, I think that they win the series because the Sixers are playing with so much momentum right now. They're playing loose. They're not supposed to be here. Like they have that underdog mentality, which is the mentality you have to have when you're a Philadelphia team because it just seems whenever the Philadelphia teams have that mentality that they're gonna be able to push through and they're gonna be able to persevere to win a big series like this. So overall, I'm pretty excited for this upcoming series. I think that they're going to win. My prediction, I think it's going to be 4-2. Sixers win the series, so Sixers in 6. I think that they win Game 1. I'm going to give it to the Knicks. Game 2, I'm going to say the Sixers steal one in the Garden. And then Game 3 and 4, the Sixers, I'm going to say, I'll say they split at home. So it'll be 2-2, Game 5 in New York. And I say the Sixers win that one. And that the Knicks were so depleted and they were relying so much on the fact that they were going to win that game that they come home. Xfinity Mobile Arena will be rocking. All the fans will be going crazy. And I think the Sixers get it done in 6 games. And they're going to go to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2001. I think the MVP of the series will be Tyrese Maxey. I think Joel Embiid's going to realize that the Knicks are going to do everything they can to shut him down, but I think that Maxey is going to shine, and I think that he's going to average like 34 points a game this series, and I think the whole world is going to see the superstar that Tyrese Maxey is, and they're going to have so much momentum from this beating the Celtics that I think Game 1 it'll probably be a letdown. I think Game 1 it'll definitely be a letdown, but Game 2 and I think the rest of the series, the Sixers are going to be like, hey, we've been here before. Like this is a time where we need to go in and we need to win this series because we can. You don't know how many more years you're going to have of like an Embiid that's playing like at this level. He's playing at a level right now that no one's seen before because he has so much experience. He's so mature as a basketball player. So I do think the Sixers get it done in 6, and I think they shock the world even more, and they're going to the Eastern Conference Finals. So hopefully my predictions are right, and Sixers in 6. Now let's shift our negativity or our sad mojo to the Flyers, who are definitely, I would say, the heartbeat and the soul of Philadelphia right now. They're playing with house money because they weren't really picked at all in the early in the regular season to win or to even make the playoffs, but they got out to such a hot start. They had a kind of a lull in January and February, but to end the regular season, they were playing great hockey. They ended up with a record of 43 and 27 and 12, and they were third in the Metropolitan Division. They're playing a Penguins team who's an older, wiser, filled with a bunch of vets, but the Flyers are still led by Sidney Crosby, by Evgeny Malkin, who have notoriously kind of owned the Flyers. They play with a sense of I've been here before and you haven't type of hockey, but to say that, the Flyers are up 3-1. They lost Game 4 in at the end of the game, I would say, and they seemed the Flyers. That was the first time in this whole series the Flyers have played with a we can't lose this game mentality. You could definitely tell the difference between the energy that they had when the puck dropped at the start of the game, and then you could tell it at the end because the Flyers seemed so defeated in the post-game interviews. I will say something that they can build off of was at the end of the game, Travis Sanheim shot a puck with probably under 5 seconds left in the game. The Flyers were down 4-2. He shot a puck. Sidney Crosby, the player that he is, decided to tackle Sanheim at the end of the game. They had a bit of a scrum. But then the Porter Martone also got into a bit of a scrum, and you could see that the energy, like the Flyers were mad that they lost that game. And I think that's something to build off of because the Flyers, that was the time where the Flyers could have just went back to the locker room. They could have just kind of forgot about that one. But they had a bad taste in their mouth. That's something to build off of because they think, like the Flyers have the belief in their head that, hey, we're here. Like this is our playoffs. This is our series. This is our series to win. The Penguins, this is kind of the end of the road for them. Like Sidney Crosby, he's getting up there in age. People are thinking that he might retire. Malkin is also getting up there in age, and this is kind of like their last hurrah, I guess you could say. But those two being together, the Flyers have a young core with Trevor Zegras, Matvei Michkov, and this was kind of like a rebuilding year. But since the Flyers are in the playoffs, they've played fearless in games 1 through 3. Game 4 was kind of an off game for them. But this is the battle of the Commonwealth. This is the battle of PA, Pittsburgh versus Philadelphia, and I think you can see that in every game. There's so much intensity, and the Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, they've never liked each other. Since there was such a history with those two teams, like in the 2010s and early 2010s and 2011, 2012. But the Penguins do have like the couple Stanley Cups to show for that. I think a huge factor that the Flyers should continue to kind of build off of is the fact that The Penguins are playing with their backs against the wall. They're playing with a this is it. This is win or go home. The Flyers played with that in game 1 and 2. Like, you could see that they were beating the Penguins on the boards. They were beating them loose pucks. The Flyers won a good bit of the faceoffs, and they were having like a lot of shots on goal, so then they could rebound and kick it back out, reset the possession. But Sean Couturier, who late in the season had a meeting with Rick Tocchet, was moved to the fourth line. Sean Couturier is a veteran who was on that 2012 team that lost to the Penguins in the playoffs, but he's never backed down from the Penguins. Even in the years that the Flyers were bad, Couturier always showed up, and he always played these games like it was a different type of rivalry. And I think he is definitely going to have a couple conversations, or at least I hope so, with these young guys like Zegras and Matvei Michkov and Porter Martone. Michkov this series has had some like dumb penalties, and I think that with those dumb penalties, it's given the Penguins some opportunities on the power play, which the Penguins rank in the top 5 in the regular season. They always seem to score. They find the open man. It's because they have experience and they've played with each other, and this is nothing new to them. But the Flyers struggle in the power play. They've never gotten higher than 30th out of 32 teams in the NHL on the power play, and they struggle. They've actually let up a shorthanded goal, which was just bad. But the Flyers they just need to be aggressive. If they're able to keep this aggressiveness up, I think it's going to work out really well for the Flyers. The biggest X factor for the Flyers this whole season, though, has been the goaltending. Dan Vladar, I can't put into words how impactful he's been. He seems to stop pretty much every shot that people think, oh, this could go in. Dan Vladar has stopped that in games 1 through 3. He's played amazing. I think the way he is playing is also a way that the Flyers, like, they're feeding off that energy, because they're like, if our goaltender's not going to allow these goals, we can kind of go after pucks. We can be aggressive. We can kind of put him we can go for the puck if it's going to put us in a bad spot, because we're confident that Vladar will save us in the end. I think another huge factor for the Flyers is that their way to be able to defend the Penguins, and the way they're able to have an attitude about them is just superb. The Flyers, like in Game 3, which was just eye-opening, because I haven't seen. I was so young when the Flyers were in the playoffs in the 2010s, and I wasn't really able to fully appreciate the Flyers' energy and all the fans and all that. But now I can, and I saw that in Game 3, it was probably the loudest I've ever seen a crowd for the Flyers. That pop when Zegras hit the one-timer that went over Stuart Skinner's shoulder, it was just, like, through the TV, you could just hear how loud it was in that arena. I think the Penguins, who made a goalie switch in Game 4, they went from Stuart Skinner, who played on the Oilers for the last couple cup runs that they've had with Connor McDavid. He is known to, like, have a couple bad games in the playoffs, and then the coach will sub him out for a game, and he'll come back a completely different goalie. The Penguins goalie in Game 4, in the early parts, wasn't really allowing anything, but at the end, you could definitely see a difference, because the Flyers were more aggressive, they were having more shots on goal, and they were putting more pressure on them, and it finally at the end kind of started to deteriorate. Like, the goalie started to be human again. Travis Sanheim, who played on the Canadian team with Sidney Crosby, he's kind of like the dirty work guy. He's been getting in all the crooks and crannies. He's been fighting for pucks. He's been really physical. He laid out Evgeny Malkin a couple times, and he's made sure his presence has been known. Jamie Drysdale, who didn't really have the best regular season, but he always contributed. He hasn't really lived up to what he can truly do, I think, in this playoffs, and I think it can be a big factor in Game 5 if Drysdale is able to get a couple shots, get a couple loose pucks, push the pace a little bit, I think it can be pretty big. I think also Porter Martone, who is I want to say like one of the best young players right now because he's acting like he's been here before. He's acting like a pro. He's having the ability to say like, listen, like I know these guys are veterans. I know this is a this guy's probably like been around the block more than I have, but I don't care. Like I can play hockey too. He set the tone by just having like his general presence out there, and he's always able to find the open guy. The Flyers, I do think at a point, especially if they were to unfortunately lose Game 5, I do think that they have to give Vladar a break. Samuel Ersson hasn't been that bad, and I think that he can definitely like if the Flyers were to score 4 goals in a game and Ersson is the goaltender, I think they can still win that game. Aronson did have some like regular season struggles, but that was also because the Flyers were playing just awful hockey. And something that stands out to me the most is the fact that Vladar, he did get hurt in Game 3, and he kind of had like an upper body injury. He played through it though. Tocchet wants him to be in goal, which I think is also giving Vladar a lot of confidence to stop these pucks. He's basically like Tocchet saying to Vladar, you're our best goalie. Go play like it. And Vladar has played like it so far. The Battle of Pennsylvania, it just has a different meaning. Like a lot of these other series, like Buffalo and Boston are playing, I like the current format that the Flyers are playing with, or the NHL playoffs are having, because a lot of these fans like don't like it, because out west it's causing more problems than like because the better teams are playing against each other early in the round, and there's going to be a team that gets lucky that wasn't as good in the regular season. But something that the Flyers have done, especially with like their management, and like Rick Tocchet is a former Flyer, Danny Briere is a former Flyer, Keith Jones, who's the operations leader, he's a former Flyer. So they know. I definitely think that they're talking to the players on the team, and they're saying, "Hey, listen, like this Battle of Pennsylvania means something. Like this isn't just like a first round matchup in the playoffs. This is the Battle of Pennsylvania. This is your biggest rival." Sidney Crosby has owned the Flyers, and a lot of the Flyers fans just hate his guts. And he's from Canada. He like in Game 3 specifically, Ristolainen walked past him and he kind of hit him with a stick. Sidney Crosby had an embellishment, which the Penguins fans all are saying like, "Oh, the Penguins haven't had any embellishments all season. This is such a BS call, and this is so bad, and the refs were bad." But just to see the energy that the whole arena had when Crosby went down, Crosby had to go to the box. Everyone went crazy. It was just, you could see that the energy is back in Flyers fans. And I think as a Flyers fan, it was so eye-opening to see that, because this city's been starved of playoff hockey. This city, early in the Flyers upbringing as a franchise, like they were the team. Like they had such a huge, if you ever to look up like their championship parade, it was 1.4 million people. Like that's just uncalled, like that's insane to see. But the city of Philadelphia will get behind your back. They'll defend you. They'll be just huge fans of your team if you're able to show that you have heart, if you're able to show that you have energy, which the Flyers definitely do in this series. They've had it all season. They had it specifically at the end of the season. Like they've caught the league by storm. If they're able to win Game 5 and have some rest before they have to play Carolina, who is a veteran team, and it'll be a tall task to beat them. But if they're able to beat the Penguins in 5 games, have rest up, I don't see how the Flyers can lose to a Hurricanes team that they have no idea what they're walking into when they come to Philly. Like the Flyers are playing with house money right now. They have nothing to lose. They're not even supposed to be here right now. But I think that the Flyers can just play with this house money type of feeling, and they can ride this all the way. Like there's no team until we get to the Stanley Cup like on our side that really puts fear in me, because the Flyers are playing right now with house money. These young guys don't know that they're not supposed to be here. the vets, I think, are also like they're kind of playing into that. They're playing into the underdog mentality, which when Philadelphia teams win, they kind of always have that underdog mentality. They have that like no one believes in us. This is Philly against the world. Like that's the mentality that they need to have. And I think it's just really great for the whole city to just see like Flyers. Like this can be a hockey city. Um, but hopefully the Flyers can win Game 5. If not, they have to come back to Philly. Game 6, I think that would be a game if they do lose Game 5. I think that is definitely a game where you have the home crowd, you have that all of that intensity, all of that energy. I think Tocchet should put in Aaronson if Vladar has a bad game. Vladar's clearly battling an injury, so he does need a break at some point. Game 7 would be probably the worst time to have Aaronson come in, but if they were to lose Game 5, I feel like you have to start Aaronson, and it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I definitely think they can still win with Aaronson in goal. The Penguins did it in Game 4. They switched goalies, but hopefully that doesn't even we don't have to think about that. And the Flyers can win Game 5. My prediction is I think they win 4-2, and I think it's close throughout, and then Pittsburgh pulls its goalie in the third period with about a minute left, and hopefully the Flyers can get an empty net goal, and they can celebrate in Pittsburgh, and all those Pittsburgh fans have to watch Philadelphia win, and that would be a great sight to see. Now, let's shift our focus to another promising, you could say, team in Philadelphia, the Birds. So the Eagles had their draft on Thursday through this past weekend. They had a few notable picks that I think will really help the team next year, and they also had a big trade, you could say, for an edge rusher that also I think can definitely help the team next year because they lacked edge rushers. So their first round pick, they originally were slated for pick 23 in the draft. A lot of people had them drafting an offensive lineman because their offensive line is getting older, and they always seem to, at least the last 2 seasons, have an offensive lineman go down for a couple games during the season, and they don't really have much help. However, the Eagles saw an opportunity to jump on, and Howie Roseman, as he usually does, jumped on it. So they traded up from 23 to pick 20. They did give up a bit of a haul, but they drafted Makai Lemon, a receiver from Southern Cal. He's 21 years old, and he's 5'11", and his weight, I mean, to put a pinpoint on an NFL player's weight is a little hard because there's a lot, sometimes it varies, but anywhere from like 190 to 200 pounds. He is really talented in the slot, which the Eagles did lack last year. They had Jahan Dotson, who wasn't as effective, but he's definitely, like Lemon is definitely faster. He ran a 4.4 in the 40, and he had 79 catches for 1,100 yards, and he won the Blitnikoff Award in college, which means he was the nation's top receiver. He had a pretty talented quarterback at USC, which helped his case, but his main role was the slot receiver, and as a slot receiver, not really the number one target, but in that offense, he still was. The Eagles it does seem that they are trading A.J. Brown away, which is a big target for Jalen Hurts to throw to, but with A.J. Brown leaving, this is definitely a help or a boost to the offense because Lemon will definitely be able to get open. The Eagles still have Devontae Smith, who I think on any other team in the NFL could definitely be a number one receiver. He's that talented. He's that good. His rookie year, he proved that he could definitely be a number one receiver. He went up against the NFL's best cornerbacks and put on a couple clinics versus them, specifically Patrick Surtain. He had a couple amazing catches against them, one that won them the game against Denver late. In the second round, they drafted Eli Stowers, who is a big physical tight end, but he's also really good at running down the field and getting open. Something that the Eagles lacked last year was versatility. I think that Eli Stowers is really versatile, and the way he plays the game, he can block, chip out, kick out for a little, pass to the flats. it will be hard for him to kind of integrate to the offense because they do still have Dallas Goedert on a 1-year deal. But I think this was more so a move for the future because they're not going to want to be responsible for paying Dallas Goedert big money after this year. He only played 2 seasons at Vanderbilt after and then he moved to Texas A&M as a quarterback, but he moved from Texas A&M, which he was originally scouted for quarterback, but he moved to Vanderbilt, played 2 seasons at tight end, and he still has a lot of room to grow. He will be behind Dallas Goedert and Johnny Munt, which are 2 players that have been in the league. They've been around, so they can definitely teach him a lot. Both of those guys are on 1-year contracts, so I think this was definitely a move for the future. He has a freakishly big vertical leap, 45.5 inches. He is a big guy, so it will be a nice big target for Jalen Hurts to throw to. In the 3rd round, they had 2 picks. They traded their earlier one, and they traded a 2027 3rd-round pick for Jonathan Grenard from the Vikings. He's a edge rusher. He started his career in the Houston Texans organization as a linebacker, and then he moved from linebacker to edge rusher because the Texans thought he was really good at rushing the passer, and he wasn't so great at falling back into coverage, but he definitely found his way as an edge rusher. His best year came in 2023 with the Texans. He had 12.5 sacks, but 2 years ago, he did have 12 sacks with the Vikings when he moved there. Last year, he did have a couple games where he was hurt, so he doesn't have as good of stats. He's coming off a shoulder surgery, so I hope that he can turn back into that 2024-2023 version, get a couple sacks, because the Eagles are lacking pass rush. Something that they lacked last year was ability to pressure the quarterback. They do have great cornerbacks with Quinyon and Coop, and they have a safety, Andrew Makuba, who's pretty young and he's up and coming. But something to also note is that Grenard is also a great run defender. The Eagles outside the hash marks weren't really that great at being able to stop the run, and they got beat a couple times with long runs to the outside. So that's definitely a nice addition to the team. I think that he's going to have a really breakout year because you still have Jordan Davis, you still have Moro Jomo, you still have Jalen Carter on the inside, and you can also pick up a few tips from Brandon Graham, who is coming back probably for his final season. But this is actually a really great move, I think, for the Eagles because it will give them another edge rusher. They did lose Jalen Phillips to the Panthers in free agency, but Jalen Phillips got paid a lot of money. So I wasn't really as mad as some fans were when they gave up Jalen Phillips, but this is definitely a great addition for the Eagles. I think they also signed him to a 4-year, $100 million deal, only $50 million guaranteed, so after 2 years they can definitely get out of it. He will be 31 when that 2 years comes, so hopefully the Eagles can find a way to structure him out a little bit, and maybe this is only a 2-year deal, which I actually really like. I think that cap-wise, it's really friendly for the team, and they can still have the ability, if they need to, during the regular season, trade for another pass rusher. I don't think pass rusher will probably be the focus when they trade in season. I think it'll be in secondary, or I think it will be offensive line. I would have liked to see the Eagles maybe go offensive line more heavier, but they did pick up somebody in the 3rd round, Markel Bell. Now, he is 6'9", 346 pounds. He is a gigantic human being. He probably will sit for the first year because of Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata, who are incredible tackles, but he does have the luxury of being able to learn behind those stars, and I think if Bell can take advantage of that, the Eagles will have something special. This one is definitely a riskier boom or bust pick, but the Eagles did hit on picks like this before with edge rusher Jalix Hunt. He didn't allow a single sack last season when he played for the national champion runner-up Miami, which Miami played a bunch of pretty solid teams, especially at the end of their run when they beat when they beat Ole Miss, and then they had to go play against Indiana, but he didn't allow a single sack. I actually really enjoy this pick because I think him having the ability to learn behind Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson will give him a great advantage compared to the other offensive linemen that were drafted around this position. Those linemen that were drafted around this position, they may have more skill right now, but I don't think they're going to have the ceiling that Markel Bell will have this upcoming season. My favorite pick of this entire draft, I think, was Cole Payton. They drafted him in the 5th round, pick 178. I wasn't really surprised that they took a quarterback on day 3 of the draft. They've done this for the 3rd time in 4 seasons, and they've had a pretty solid backup in Tanner McKee, which they drafted in the 6th round in 2023. And then they also drafted Kyle McCord last year in the 6th round in 2025. This time, though, the Eagles did kind of switch up from the more traditional passer. They went with a dual threat passer. And Payton threw for 2,700 yards last season at North Dakota State, and he had 16 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions. But he also, this is the part I really like about Cole Payton's game, he ran for 777 yards. The Eagles have a team where they have Saquon Barkley, they have A.J. Brown, they have Devontae Smith, they have Dallas Goedert, they have Eli Stowers. I think a team that will not just be able to pass the ball, because Jalen Hurts, he does play in his best years, Jalen Hurts plays and he runs the ball well. When you have a running quarterback like that, I think it's big to be able to have a good backup because he can play fearless. I think it's something that held Jalen Hurts back last year was he knew that if he got hurt, the whole offense would have to switch. Tanner McKee is a traditional passer. He sits back in the pocket and he can hit his spot, or he can hit guys when they run to their spots, but he's not a dual threat quarterback like Hurts. Hurts is best when he's running the ball and he's also passing it. Hopefully Payton can develop in the spring practices and training camp. I really think he will because that'll give the opportunity for the Eagles to trade Tanner McKee. McKee's been an asset for the last 2 years, and a lot of teams have called and checked in on him, but the Eagles haven't really been comfortable with giving him up because Jalen Hurts is a dual threat quarterback. He does run the ball, and when quarterbacks run the ball, they can get hurt. And I think Cole Payton, if he can really fulfill what his true potential will be, I think he can actually turn into a starter in the NFL. He is a left-handed quarterback, which they tend to struggle in the NFL because a lot of the passing game is made for right-handed quarterbacks. But Cole Payton proved at North Dakota State he can change an offense because North Dakota State struggled the year before. Cole Payton came in, and like I said, he threw 2,700 yards and 16 TDs. And he also protected the ball. Like him only having 4 interceptions was something that amazed me because he would throw it into coverages. He wasn't afraid to throw the ball downfield, and I love that pick for the Eagles. In the 6th round, they went with Michael Morris. This was the second offensive lineman taken by the Eagles in the draft. However, I think Morris will be definitely more of a project compared to Markel Bell. He had to earn his way into the Georgia Bulldogs lineup last year. He wasn't a full-time starter until his senior season, but he still is 6'5", 334 pounds. He can hold his own with his nose tackles. And I think that drafting Michael Morris kind of showed that the Eagles are a little bit nervous about having Dickerson and Juergens. Like, they both have had a history of injuries, and they sometimes do miss like 2 to 3 games a season because they do have so much wear and tear on them. He will need a lot of work before he's ready to like contribute and play, but I still think this is a prospect that they took a chance on, and I actually really like this pick because not many people expected the Eagles to go interior lineman because their tackles are getting older, but the Eagles showing that they needed to draft interior line, I think that they're keeping it honest. They're saying like, listen, like these guys, they get hurt a little bit, and so let's just have a security blanket, and I love this pick from them. The last pick they had in the 7th round, pick 244, was Cole Wisniewski. He was a safety. He comes out of Texas Tech. He spent 3 seasons at North Dakota State. He led the FCS with 8 interceptions in 2023. but he was playing closer to the line of scrimmage at Texas Tech, so he didn't have as many opportunities to get picks, and he didn't have as many pass breakups, but he still was able to contribute to stopping the run. He's a good tackler. He is only 6'3", 219 pounds, so he's more of a hybrid type safety, but I think his main red flag and why he dropped was because his coverage deep can be an issue, and I think still, even though that is a red flag, and he did struggle with that, especially at Texas Tech, more so than North Dakota State. I think this was a great risk by the Eagles because he played a style of football that was very physical, which the rest of the Eagles defense definitely does, and I think he'll fit right in with Fangio's scheme of having safety drop in and out of the box, drop in coverage, and they can play. He's speedy enough to where he can play with receivers, and he can still be able to track tight ends. And out of the backfield, I think that's where he'll probably struggle the most because running backs are quite shifty and they're quite they'll probably be faster than him. But for a 7th-round pick, I love the value here, and I think Cole Wisniewski definitely that was a steal of a pick in the 7th round. Not many people had him going that late, but I love that pick for the Eagles, and I think he can be able to contribute probably in a year or two. If not, I think if he was thrown into a situation where he did have to play next season, I think it could definitely work out. His ball skills were definitely something that caught my eye when I was watching some highlight videos of him, but he's definitely going to be able to contribute, I think, to the Eagles down the line. And if not, he can't contribute on the defensive side. He did play special teams at North Dakota State, so the Eagles will have some leeway there where they can probably throw him on special teams. He can make some tackles. He was a good tackler, so I do like that pick from them. Now let's talk about the low point of Philly sports, and I am talking about the Philadelphia Phillies. They're 9-19 right now. In their last 10, they're 1-9. They lost to the Braves today in just a defeating fashion. They can't really hit the ball. They have a run differential of -54, one of the worst in the MLB. So let's talk about why they're struggling. I think a big reason why they're struggling is the fact that Brandon Marsh, who's a pretty good utility player, but he's not the best. He can't be your best player. Right now, he's their best hitter. He's batting .297. He has 4 homers and 16 RBIs. Brandon Marsh started this season pretty promising. I think that he started hot. He's kind of come down to life these last couple games, but he can't be your best player. I mean, he's not the best fielder. He's not the best hitter. He really can't hit lefties, but right now he's hitting kind of consistently. I do think a guy that's going under the radar, and it's crazy that he's going under the radar, is Bryce Harper. He is batting .260. He had a slow start to the season, but as of recent, he's found his stroke. He has 6 homers and 18 RBIs. The thing I love about Bryce right now is that he's going the other way with the ball. He's balanced. He's hitting balance. You can see every time he gets to the plate, he's not looking to go home run. He's not looking to pull the ball. He's going opposite side of the field. He's going left center to left field, and he's going to center field. I think that him being able to hit, if the Phillies are able to turn it around, I think it's going to be on his back. Every time he's been coming up to the plate, he's had competitive at-bats, and that's what you want when you have your best player. You want him to have competitive at-bats. You want him to be able to show that they don't need him to be the best player every single time he goes to the plate, but they do need him to be definitely a factor because he is such a good player and he's such a big time role. He has such a big role in this team. The third best hitter, I would say, is Justin Crawford, who is a rookie. He's promising. He's showing that he can definitely play on the MLB level. A lot of people worry because he was one of the Phillies' best prospects, that he was just doing really good in AAA. He was benefiting off the fact that he's only playing against AAA players. But he's showing that it doesn't matter. You can throw a great arm out there. He's going to be your everyday center fielder. He doesn't have any homers yet, but he does have 3 RBIs. He has struck out a bit, but that's not as concerning because he he is young. Like he's gonna struggle a little bit at first, but he does have 19 hits, and I think his most underrated part of his game is the ability to be able to steal bags, which he's stolen two so far. But as he gets more mature, as he gets more used to playing in the bigs, I think he's definitely going to have a lot of stolen bases. So that's the offensive side. The rest of the offense is struggling. I think Trey and Schwarber, I think both of them have to kind of show up for the Phillies to have any chance of making the playoffs. It is early in the season. There's definitely it's not even May yet, and people are already like writing them off, which I think is a little bit jumping the gun just because the MLB season is so long and the MLB season has so many stretches of games, and sometimes it can be weird where like your division isn't that good, but the your overall record isn't that good, but you can still win your division. The Braves are playing pretty good baseball right now, but the Braves always seem to kind of fall apart because of injuries. So I'm not hoping for injuries, but at the same time, I'm not hoping that the Braves continue to be this good. The Phillies' bread and butter the last couple years has been their pitching staff. Now, they did just get Zach Wheeler back on Saturday. He threw against the Braves. A lot of people were worried about like his injury from last year, which was the blood clots in his shoulder, that he wasn't going to be able to have the same velocity. But I think he put a lot of those haters to bed because he was throwing 95, 96, anywhere in that range with his fastball, and all of his other stuff looked pretty good. It was his first outing out, so he did have a long fourth inning where he threw a lot of pitches in the inning, but I think overall it actually was pretty good because he looked like he still looked like Zach Wheeler. That's all we wanted, and most of all we just wanted him to be healthy because it was definitely a scary sight for him to have blood clots, and that's nothing like easy to come back from. So I think it was definitely something that was promising for the fans to see, and I love the fact that he's healthy and he's able to keep going. Other than that, for the Phillies pitching staff, it hasn't really been that promising. Christopher Sanchez, who just signed a big extension in the offseason, he's 2-2 with a 2.9 ERA, close to 3. The last couple of years, he hasn't, like, the start of the season hasn't always been smooth for him, but at the same time, like, he should be to the point now where he's had enough years under his belt where he shouldn't really have this bad of a start to the season. I think that him having this bad of a start to the season, it should raise some questions, but at the same time, his stuff still looks amazing. He just had some bad luck with some games here and there. The other person who got extended this offseason was Jesus Luzardo. Jesus Luzardo, I'm a huge fan of his, and I think he can really be a great pitcher for this team. However, this season, he's been pretty bad. He's 1-3. He has a 6.91 ERA, and I think that for him to continue to like be a dominant pitcher like he was the last couple years, I think that he's going to need to be able to control his changeup. His changeup is his best pitch. He can throw the fastball really well and throw it hard, but his changeup is the way that like he changes at bats because there's such a difference in speed between his changeup and his fastball. Something that he definitely he admitted in his post-game press conference was his location has been off, and when speaking from experience, because I pitched at a pretty high level, not in MLB by any means, but in high school baseball and just like travel baseball, but I was also a pitcher. I think that when you don't have your ability to locate pitches and your ability, like you're not confident in that, you definitely lose some of your gusto and you don't have the same ability to throw your pitches because you don't trust yourself. You don't trust yourself to hit spots. But I definitely think he can turn around. He's not like old by any means. He's pretty young. So this isn't the worst thing ever, but there's definitely some ways for him to get better, which is at least like sometimes pitchers like don't know like, oh, I don't know how to get better. Like Jesus Luzardo has admitted and he knows and he's talked with the pitching coach that he needs to get ahead of batters in the count, and that way he can use all of his stuff. But most of all, he needs to get that changeup back, and he needs to get it to the point where it was like the last 2 seasons where he's been able to pinpoint the changeup on hitters, and he's been able to attack them with his changeup, and then he can use his slurve, fastball, off-speed pitches to kind of throw off the batter's timing, and then throw that fastball for in like great spots. The bright spot, or the young man in the Phillies rotation, is Andrew Painter. Now, Andrew Painter was one of the high draft picks for the Phillies. A lot of Phillies fans were really excited when the Phillies drafted him. He's a big guy, but this season he's had some bad luck with teams he's faced. He's also battled some issues with he had a migraine one game, but he did have a really great showing in his first appearance for the Phillies. He's 1-2 right now. He has a 5.25 ERA, but he has shown that he can definitely be an MLB pitcher. His fastball is fast. His off-speed pitches are devastating, and something that I think will just come with time, it happens a lot with young pitchers, is the fact that he gets a little too dependent on his fastball, and so when he throws a pitch over and over again to MLB hitters, they're eventually going to pick up on it. But I think that him being able to go out there so far this season and rack up enough, experience in the bigs, I think that's pretty big. He does have 21 strikeouts, which I honestly love for him because he's a strikeout type of guy. He's a guy that's going to be able to blow you away with his fastball and then put you away with that off-speed stuff that he has, which I think can develop to be some of like the best in the game. A player who was recently cut was Taijuan Walker. He's an older pitcher. He's a veteran pitcher, but he was just awful from the start of the season. He never really found his stride. Last season he was pretty bad and he got moved around, but he had a 9.13 ERA. Every time he was going out there, he was giving up just hits after hits. It was just awful every time that he showed up. He was 1-4. Like, it was just embarrassing that he was on the Phillies, and he really has contributed to that run differential that I noted to earlier, like that negative 54 run differential. I think like over like 27 runs of that run differential has been because of the times he's gone out there and pitched. Now, I'm not saying that like those times, like the Phillies didn't hit, so like it's not all his fault, but he shouldn't have been. There should be no world where he was going out there continuously for the Phillies. He gave up 8 home runs, and no other Phillies pitcher is really close to that other than Aaron Nola, who we'll talk about in a little bit. But Taijuan Walker was just it was painful to watch him pitch. He could never hit his spots. He could never compete with batters. It just always seemed like he was behind in counts, and he could never just get he can never get over that hump of like, I can't pitch right now, and it was never promising. Like, there was no promise with him. The last pitcher I want to talk about is the guy who's been in Philadelphia the longest. He's been through the ups, he's been through the downs. Aaron Nola. I am not the biggest fan of Aaron Nola, but I do understand that he has been here for a while. He was with the Phillies when they were really bad, and he showed a lot of young promise. Now he is like older. So it is a little tough to like get on him because no one's like begging him to be like a number one pitcher, but at the same time, there is games where he shows like, oh, I can be this type of pitcher. Like last year in the playoffs against the Dodgers, he pitched a good amount of innings in a winner go home game, and it was just like he looked like Aaron Nola. Like that's what you want to see. This year he's had a couple games where he's been a little rocky to start, like in the first inning. And then he's been able to turn it around. Other times it's like he'll get to the 5th inning, and then that's when like the floodgates open and he can't find a spot. He can't throw any pitches. He throws a lot of pitches that are over the plate, so the hitters do have an opportunity to hit them. He does give up like a good amount of home runs, which is not the greatest thing, but at the same time he's pitching to contact, which is kind of what at this age like the Phillies need him to do. I think just with him, like his off-speed stuff is so gross, and all of his stuff that he has is like it moves so much that sometimes it moves too much, and then he loses control of it. So then he has to throw like a fastball, which like since he's a little bit older now, his fastball has dipped in velocity, so hitters can jump on that fastball and really just like go to town on the fastball, which is not good for the Phillies at all. I think overall though the Phillies. It's very frustrating because the Phillies have talent with Harper, Schwarber, Trey Turner, and I think that all three of those guys, like, so much is being put on them right now to like be like, oh, we need you to be the guys. That it's early in the season for them to just like turn it on. Like they've had no sense of like, let's get used to the pitching, let's get into a groove. But I mean, Harper, as of recent, has gotten into that groove. Trey Turner is getting on base sometimes, and Schwarber, he's not like an on base type of guy. Like he'll hit homers, but I think the Phillies management, like Dave Dombrowski and uh, John Middleton, like they put this roster together that is so dependent on those three guys that if those three guys can't, like, if only two of those out of those three guys can hit, that's your hitters, and two of them are left-handed hitters, so it's a little tough for them to just be able to turn it on and off. Something that stands out to me is the fact that the Phillies brought back JT Realmuto. He was an aging catcher. He now is on the IL because he is hurt. I think that was a very telling move for the Phillies. Now, I mean this, I don't have anything against JT as a person. And as a player, like, he's been great the last couple of years, and he's been a great defensive catcher. However, it's very telling the fact that he was the only guy post like a couple pitchers they signed and Adolis Garcia that they like immediately signed. I think the Phillies were content with running back the same team over and over again, and I think that is they caught lightning in a bottle in 2022. 2023, they had a good chance, and then they squashed it against the Arizona Diamondbacks because they couldn't hit. The bats came up cold at the end of the series, and and the Diamondbacks did get hot. And then I think something that is even more telling is the fact that their best two hitters are left-handed hitters. Trey Turner can be one of their best hitters, but for him to be one of their best hitters, he's their only right-handed hitter. So when teams bring in pitchers, good right-handed pitchers, they're going in to only face Trey Turner. Alec Boehm hasn't really stepped up this year, hitting-wise, which has hurt them. And then also Bryson Stott can't hit left-handed pitching. And we've known this about Bryson Stott. I love Bryson Stott. I think I'm a huge fan of his. Defensively, Bryson Stott is a stud. But if there's an MLB hitter that you know for years have not been able to hit against left-handed pitching, I think that is a time where you have to really assess your roster and you have to say, listen, if we need guys who can hit against left-handed pitching, we need guys who can hit against left-handed pitching. The Phillies just seem to just ignore that these last couple off seasons and have never been able to just sign a guy who can hit left-handed pitching. They are 9-19. They do have a couple series coming up that I think is definitely winnable. They can stack some wins together, but it's going to be a grind. I'm not saying that this is like some shoo-in. They have series against the Giants coming up, and then they have series against the Marlins, A's, and Rockies. If they can win 3 of those series, I'm pretty confident that they can kind of turn the season around a little bit, because at the end of May they play the Padres and the Dodgers, who are 2 series that I think it'll be really telling that if they can win those series, I think that'll be, and they're both away, they're both on the West Coast. If they can win one of those series and they have an around like 500, above 500 record, I think that's going to be a great sign for the Phillies, because in the months of June, July, and August, it's just going to get warmer. Hitting's going to get a little easier. Pitchers aren't going to be as, trained up as they are right now. But I think everything's going to kind of come together in those June, July, August months. And by the end of the season, hopefully you're at around like 90 wins, which is a tall task like right now. But it's not like it's not doable. I definitely think it's doable. So hopefully they can turn it around, and I hope that the Phillies can, make a little run in the postseason. They definitely have the roster. It's not that they don't have the roster. They have the players to do it. They have the star power. They just need to have some other players other than Bryce, Schwarber, and Turner to step up to the plate and be able to hit. Adolis has been pretty solid so far, but he's nothing like spectacular. And Crawford and Marsh, like, those are 2 guys that, like, if they can consistently do what they're doing right now, I think that the Phillies will be like fine in the long run. But it's really it comes down to the roster construction, and I think that Dave Dombrowski has just done a poor job in roster construction. So that's pretty much all I have to talk about with the Phillies. Hopefully they can turn around. this is a Philadelphia sports podcast, so I did want to highlight something else that it's going on in the city of Philadelphia, and does have to do with sports, and that's the Penn Relays. These are relays that happen every year at Franklin Field in Philadelphia, and I think that this year it was a little special, at least personally to me, because I had my younger brother competed in the Penn Relays, and something that happened that was pretty great to see was he finished second in his races in the 4x1, which was pretty impressive. Like it's people from all around the country come to race in these relays. It's a huge deal for track and field. So for him to be able to compete and ultimately him and his teammates place second against some of the best track runners in the country, it was honestly really impressive. So that's pretty much all I have. Thank you for listening to this podcast. I'll see you next time, and until then, go Philadelphia, go Flyers, go Sixers. I'm excited for the Eagles season upcoming, and hopefully the Phillies can turn it around. Thanks for listening.